Today we're going to be having a look at the GLSSWRKS Kazemi. This is probably the most hyped glass pad around right now. Of course, the design is one thing, but when it comes to the actual surface of this pad, I truly believe that this is objectively the most safe and usable glass pad surface right now. And if you want to know what I mean by that, definitely stick around for this video. Before we get into details, I do want to mention that this was sent out to me by jakeu, who is the top goon over at GLSSWRKS. First of all, we'll start with the unboxing experience. This is cardboard, this is foam, this is foam around the pad. You do also get a piece of cloth that is not just a normal microfiber cloth, but actually kind of intended for this type of surface. I don't know if it's anything special, but it works fine for getting the dust off the pad. And since I've already made a pretty in-depth video on the Akari, I will only be comparing this to the Akari from GLSSWRKS as well, so that you can see the differences between this surface and the one on the Akari. But before we do that, I do want to show you the rear side as well, where the backing now is actually perfectly aligned on my unit. This will never slip on your desk. And sitting at around 3.75 millimeters, this is definitely thin enough for it not to be annoying. The edges are also decently rounded, nothing crazy, but yet again, I never feel this in-game. When it comes to the design, this one has zero AI implementation this time around, which I do find very based. Although I am getting kind of tired of these female on a mousepad designs, this one is definitely the most appealing one yet, with the colors really striking through in real life. It's super saturated and not a boring design whatsoever. And I also truly appreciate that this is not a goon pad with an underage looking anime girl busting it down on a glass pad for $110. jakeu also told me that it will not only be female characters on his lineup, so expect some cool ass looking dudes in the future. Now, what is actually different about the Kazemi? One thing that is different is the clarity in the glass, which has now been improved for the Kazemi here. As you can see on the Akari, the logo is a bit more washed, and on the Kazemi it is definitely a bit clearer. When I first unboxed it on stream, I thought that this one looked a bit more frosty, but that is only because of the design itself, because it is now using a slightly different art style since it has no AI implementation like the Akari. When it comes to the surface, yet again, it works perfect with all types of dots, and I will go over this in a bit. It is yet again the most silent pad on the market, even more silent than the Akari. It is ever so slightly more controlled. We're talking about like 2 to 3% here. For me personally, the difference is actually kind of noticeable in game. I don't feel a slight hovery feeling, which I had on the Akari, and I was also talking about in my review. So this pad being ever so slightly more controlled feels perfect to me in game. The only issue that I had with the Akari was that sometimes I had tiny dust particles which were kind of settled into the glass surface, and the only way that I could get those tiny specks out of the surface was when getting a damp microfiber cloth and really rinsing it down. It has nothing to do with just surface level dust which you find on any glass pad, and I'm happy to say that I don't have that issue here on the Kazemi whatsoever. So overall, this is just the Akari but better. Just keep in mind that these differences are very minuscule, and I wouldn't just go ahead and buy this pad only because of those slight differences. I would only get this if you don't have an Akari already, since the differences are very small and it probably isn't worth spending another $109 for this thing. But for those who have tried glass pads already and just don't seem to like anything, or if you have never tried a glass pad before, this is the perfect opportunity, because in my opinion, this is the most safe glass pad ever. Despite very hot weather over here in Switzerland right now during summer, and also being quite humid because it's been raining non-stop, I have had zero skin sticking on this pad. It has been an absolute non-issue, and I would never want to use a sleeve on this thing. That combined with the smoothest experience, the quietest skate experience with all dots that I have here, and also the pad not being ludicrously fast, and the pad being thin enough on a 490 by 420 scale and not being annoying on your arm whatsoever, just makes this the objectively most safe glass pad out there right now. I am not glass pilled, and I have always found it difficult for me to enjoy glass pads. I always kind of had to force myself to use these glass pads for 1 to 2 weeks straight just to put out a review on them. But this one was the first where I didn't feel like I was forced to actually use it. This one I just enjoyed using, especially over on X-Defiant, where I kind of just zoned out with this pad, and it really is a lot of fun just tracking around on targets with this thing. Now, there are definitely some games out there that I would never be able to main on a glass pad, just like CS2, but for X defiant where you're constantly tracking and have a pretty long time to kill, this thing is really fun. Now when it comes to skates, I would definitely advocate for dot skates here, because if you use large surface area skates, you definitely have a much higher chance of hitting a hair on your mouse pad. Some of the incredibly popular skates out there that are optimal for glass pads have been the Yancy dots by Esports Tiger. These are a tiny bit more on the faster side. Then there are also the regular X-ray pad or Ultra Glide Obsidian skates. These are a bit more on the balanced end and not super fast. Yet again, perfectly quiet, super smooth. Then we also have the brand new Obsidian Air skates by X-ray pad. These are pretty much just an improved version of the Obsidian skates, but I haven't tested them enough to give them a full review. Then there are also the brand new X-ray pad Obsidian Pro Air skates, and these are so much better than the wall hack or X-ray pad Obsidian Pros that we originally had, which felt incredibly scratchy on most glass pads out there and just weren't worth using whatsoever. But here in the Kazemi, they are actually pretty quiet, much more quiet and way less scratchy over the original Obsidian Pros, and it is still a rather controlled experience. So if you're looking for a skate that is a bit slower and not as uncontrolled as something like the Yancy dots over here or even X-ray pad Jades, I can definitely vouch for these so far because I've definitely been enjoying them, and they just help me crutch a bit more because then you don't need that much mouse control with skates like these. There are also the Ghost Glide Cyclone dots, but yet again I haven't been able to try these just yet because they only just arrived yesterday. So I will probably be doing a video only on dots for hard pads in a bit, because I do see people constantly asking me what the fastest dot skate is and what the best dot skates are for glass pads. And the most awesome thing about these skates is that if you have a glass pad and it is either too slow or too fast for you, you can compensate for that with these type of dots. So you don't need to go out there and buy another $120 goon pad when you can just get skates for $8 to $10. Now, to the conclusion, who is this glass pad for? If you don't have a glass pad yet and you're considering getting one, this is the one for you. If you are not happy with the 490 by 420 sizing, definitely wait for the monochrome design that will be releasing later in a 500 by 500 size. If you are already on a glass pad like the SkyPad 004 and you think that it's simply too fast for you, or you have some other things that annoy you with it, this is definitely the pad that I've tried so far that has been the least maintenance heavy and also just the safest surface so far. It is incredibly smooth, incredibly quiet, and it is difficult to find something not to like about this pad. This is definitely my favorite glass pad surface so far, and I can definitely vouch for it. I think that Takusi over at Glassworks is doing a great job at listening to us reviewers and also the community, and despite me probably being the only reviewer who had some type of issue with the Akari, which was the dust particles kind of sticking into the surface, bro actually listened to me and improved the surface upon that feedback. Anyway, that's about it for this video. Huge thanks to you guys for watching. Definitely make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell right next to it if you're at all interested in this type of content, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace out.